Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Modern Woodcarver Podcast. I'm your host, Michael. I'm really excited about today's episode. Joining me today is someone whose work truly stands out in the carving community, Jonathan Creason. Jonathan is not only an incredibly talented carver, but he also runs a great YouTube channel where he shares his process, techniques, and projects with the carving world. He's especially known for his character style carving, pieces packed with personality. If you've ever come across his work, you know exactly what I mean. His carvings have incredible expressions and details. The faces he creates feel alive, the character, the depth, the subtle little touches. It's the kind of craftsmanship that makes you stop and really study a piece. What I really admire about Jonathan is the level of refinement in his work. There's intention behind every cut. His attention to detail and his ability to bring personality into wood is something special. And it's exciting to have him here to talk about his journey. Today, we're going to dive in to how he got started, how he developed his style, his approach to capturing expression in his character carvings, his YouTube journey, and what he's working on next. Jonathan, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you and I have chatted a few times over a year or two on Instagram, but never actually had much of a conversation. Just a few tips and
Yeah,
tricks of recording pictures and stuff.
yeah. Just exchanging some messages back and forth, but it's good to actually get to
Yeah.
speak to you one on one.
Yeah, definitely. It's always nice talking to other carvers and getting to meet them finally, because not many of us share our pictures of ourselves. So
Right.
it's a little funny to actually see who's behind the work. Um,
I still, my Instagram. I don't put a lot of pictures on there, but with the YouTube, that's actually, if you're in the YouTube carving community, you know Johnny, and he's been really
yeah,
helpful for me with my channel over the past year and a half. Just give me some pointers and stuff, and that's one thing he told me. You got to make it personal, got to show yourself, because I was dead set on like not showing my face on camera. But
yeah, yeah.
I
I'm a
do
little like that. Yeah,
I do
no,
think it
Johnny's a
matters.
great dude. He's really helpful and he really cares about the carving world.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, he
Yeah.
does. Yeah, he's been a big help to me, and it's a guy that just chat with every once in a while, just for the heck of it, which is it's great to have.
Yeah, definitely. So how long have you been carving?
Uh, Off and on. Well, so it's kind of a long and convoluted story. I grew up. My dad actually collected vintage duck decoys. He still has pretty nice, pretty big collection. And I grew up surrounded by those. And at the time, this would have been probably in the early 2000s. I was duck hunting a lot then, and I had this idea that I wanted to hunt over a decoy spread that I had carved myself. So I got into decoy carving. I don't know, 2005, 2006, somewhere in that range, and kind of pursued that for a couple of years. But so my oldest son was born in 2004. My youngest son was born in 2008. Not really the best time to be picking up a new hobby. Um,
Yeah.
so it fizzled out after a while, and you know went through all the stuff raising two boys. They got involved in sports. I was helping coach, running from one practice to another. Most of the year until late I guess it been 2019. They had started. They got to the point where they were practicing, at school, and I wasn't coaching anymore. Had a little extra free time, and I was perusing. I think it was the Bushcraft USA forums, and I ran across a tutorial on how to carve a wood spirit. I thought, that looks neat. I hadn't carved anything in a while, and maybe I'll give it a try. So I grabbed my case sodbuster pocket knife and went outside and cut a limb off a cedar tree, and turned out the absolute ugliest wood spirit that I think anybody has ever made, and it's absolutely horrendous. But I was hooked. I knew I wanted to get back into carving then, and you know, since I had the time, a little bit extra time, I was going to go dive in. So I actually asked for a couple of carving knives for Christmas of that year, and started went online, went to all found all the groups on Facebook. Got to looking on YouTube, found Doug and Gene Messer. Those were my two biggest initial influences, and really got into it. And so early 2020, I guess it'd have been February 2020. That's when the Charlotte Woodcarvers were having their big annual show in February, and somebody, a friend of mine, shared the flyer with me. I thought, well, that looks neat. I'm gonna ride down and check it out. I didn't know anything about a carving show. I didn't know what to expect. I saw it was listed, open Friday through Sunday. Well, I don't have anything going on Sunday afternoon. I'll go down then. Drove down to Charlotte. Got there a little after lunchtime, and pretty much everything was over with at that point. Everybody was winding things
Packing up.
down. Yeah, but there were still, all the carvings on the table. They hadn't been put up yet. So I spent a couple hours just wandering around the hall there, just in awe of the carvings that I saw. I don't think I spoke to a single person the whole time I was there. Um,
Mm.
I'm introverted by nature, so like doing all this stuff is not natural to me. All the social media and YouTube and all that stuff, it's not easy. And I just
Yeah.
didn't. I don't go out of my way to start conversations with anybody. So I wandered around there for a couple hours and came home with this newfound determination. And then I think like 2 weeks later, COVID hits, and I've got nothing but time then. Um, so I dove in head first and haven't come up for air ever since.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah. I'm always fascinated by the people's journey and how they started and how they kind of developed over the years. Mm. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those duck decoys being carved. It's not something I'm too familiar with. I live in the city. I don't go hunting all that much. I have in the past, but you know, no need to carve a duck. But
Well, it's the bird carving community is different, and there are
it's a whole
different.
nother ball game. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there are different levels there. I was more interested in what they considered, a working decoy, actual use. So you didn't have all the really fine detail and stuff. Sometimes it was implied or painted on or whatnot, but you didn't want the fragile little bits and feathers and stuff like that sticking off. The realistic bird carvers, I tried my hand at that a couple of times, and I just do not have the attention for detail that requires, because those guys
Yeah.
they're counting primary feathers. I got actually try to get some critiques from on one that I'd done, and they're like, well, a blue jay has these tiny little feathers here, and you didn't put those in. So,
Oh boy, they're picking you apart.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, so you've been carving on and off for a long time, actually, since you kind of got into it back in the day. But I guess
Yeah,
mostly around COVID is when you really amped up.
that's that's when I really really got into it, really went hard after it.
Yeah.
Um, I had never done any kind of caricature carving, prior to then. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know that was a world that existed back in the day.
Yeah.
And of course, that was in the fledgling stages of the internet. Things things are just different now. You got the entire world at your
Oh
fingertips.
yeah.
So if you catch a glance at something, you can find information on it within a matter of seconds. And back then I had exposure to the decoys, and that's all I knew about.
Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of amazing resources out there.
Yeah,
You mentioned Doug Linker. He's I found Doug years before I actually started carving, just as a woodworking enthusiast, and you know, his stuff always kind of just popped up, and I would watch videos here and there. I always enjoyed it, but yeah, he was a tremendous help in the beginning.
no, absolutely, and he still is the what I consider to be the gold standard as far as production goes for
Oh,
tutorials.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still trying to figure all that out, and I'm light years away from being able to meet the production values that he has. But you know,
Honestly, you're doing great. I've watched a ton of your videos since you've been posting them, and I like the style, I like the pace, I like the projects you're doing too. I think they're all really cool. And your process from I remember your first early videos to compared to now, like there's a huge difference um, from how you started to where you are now. And I think every video you just kind of improve more and more. And your characters are incredible. I mean, you're easily one of the best Santa carvers among them. There's a handful, and
well,
you're up there
I
with them.
appreciate that. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. I mean, I've got that all the credit goes to Blake Luntz for that. He's another one of those early videos. He did the Santa carving. I think it's like a three-part series, YouTube, several years ago, and that was one of the things I stumbled across. And I was like, "Oh, that looks kind of neat. I'd like to try that." And
yeah,
I just followed his tutorial for a while, and then I started thinking, well, let's play around with this and that, and try to do something, try to make it my own. I don't, I have tons of uh, tons of people that whose work I've looked up to over the years. I never want to recreate their style. I want to take their style and adapt it, make it make make it my own eventually.
of course. Yeah, I think we all try to do that. It's one of these hobbies where we all kind of just bite off each other. We'll see something and we'll say, "I want to do that," and we'll kind of copy an exact match for the first couple, and then once we get comfortable, we'll tend to add our own flair to it.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
and I can always appreciate um, where it kind of came from to where it goes, and every carver has their own unique little spin on things. You definitely have. I could spot your pieces apart from others very
Mm.
easily,
Well, I
especially like
appreciate that.
in the Santa world specifically. There's you, and the only one I can think of is what's his name? Joiner's Handcrafted, I believe.
No, yeah, Alex Joyner, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's one
Yes, Alex Joyner.
that I
Um,
would just sit and blow up his pictures and just study each and every cut for a long time to figure out, try to reverse engineer
yeah, but
techniques and whatnot.
you both have, you- in my opinion, you both have those high end type of Santa carvings, but two very distinct differences in styles. Like I could spot yours, and I could spot his, and say, okay, that's Jonathan's and that's Alex. Um,
Yeah,
and I think they're great.
well, thanks.
And I love one thing I really love about your work is the expressions you manage to get on them, because you get all these like twisted, wonky faces on them, and I just kind of love that because a lot of what you see out there is these very just two-dimensional looking faces.
Mhm.
I do that. I kind of do those frowny face type of wood spirits and stuff. Um, I don't add a lot of expression with the mouth and the teeth and stuff like that. And I think you do a great job doing that stuff.
Well, thanks. I credit, the ADHD for that 'cause, I I just
Yeah.
I get bored, doing the same things over and over, so just wanna tinker, try different things constantly, and that's, kind of where it's led me to is just trying to be as expressive as possible and just doing different off the wall things that, nobody else, you know, does, I guess.
So you mentioned a few other carvers that you kind of look up to. Is there anyone else that you kind of admire or try to recreate or inspire
Oh,
you?
that would that would be a very, very difficult,
It's a long
list for
list.
me. Yeah, and my stock answer for that is I have always gravitated towards the people that have their own individual unique style. And, you know, there's, of course, the CCA guys like Kevin Applegate and Mitch Cartledge, Dwayne Gosnell, my buddy Pat Coffey, the newest CCA member, Blake, all these guys that um, I think have their own unique style, and I'm forgetting so many people. That's why I'm
Oh
hesitant to
yeah,
even start
there's
naming
handfuls.
names because yeah, there's ah, I could never narrow it down. One of the people I stumbled across, kind of after I'd been into it for a while, that really caught my eye though is Kevin Applegate. Just something about his style, the way he the the way he does his noses and his eyes and stuff like that really stood out to me. And it's not that I wanted to duplicate that, but it was a big influence on you know that's kind of one of the I guess calling cards of my carvings. I typically have a broader nose on there. Um, I do make the eyes a little bit bigger than Kevin does, but I use the same technique that he generally uses. Uh, just make mine a little bit larger than he typically does. But
Yeah, I think he makes a lot of those bust type carvings,
yeah,
right? He has
yeah, he
the big
does.
head and yeah, those are nice. I like those. Requires a big chunk of wood, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Carving. I've carved a few busts over the past few years, and of course he's doing a lot of his in one piece. I've always done two pieces. Done the torso out of one block, and then the head and neck separately, and drill the torso
Now,
out. And
do you do those with a standard just whittling knife or palm set of chisels, or do you have a bigger set to hammer them in?
um, no, I've never done any big busts. Most of mine are. I've done a couple that were bordering on too large for my palm tools, but that's really all I have. I do have a couple of larger um, mallet chisels, the files,
Yeah,
but I
those are
don't.
nice.
They don't use. They don't get a whole lot of use. I've picked up a few here and there, thinking I wanted maybe if I want to delve into cottonwood bark carving in the future, but it's not a whole lot of cottonwood bark in my area, and it's
Yeah, me
expensive to
same
get
here.
here.
Yeah. The only ones I've managed to find are these little tiny chunks of it. And
uh,
in the pictures, it's kind of hard to tell. I don't know how shallow they are or how deep they are. And like you said, they're pretty expensive. So
yeah,
I just never wanted to take that gamble. One day
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll do it. And then what kind of a knife are you working with?
My go-to is Badger State blades. I've gotten to be pretty good friends with Ashton over the past year and a half. 2 years. And she's actually let me test out a couple of newer products over past few months. Um,
That's awesome.
and you know, got maybe got something new and exciting coming out here soon. I've just got to lay hands on it recently,
Oh, very
and
cool.
been giving it a pretty tough workout over the last week, and I really like what it's doing. So yeah, the Cuddy Sark, which was they just released in September of last year, was actually kind of a design that I requested, and the the one that I use most often in my videos, that was the very first one that they produced, and it's still that's my go-to knife for everything now.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I've heard amazing things about Badger State. I personally don't own one. I should get one. But
Yeah, I mean, you know, very, handmade, high quality, good stuff. But there's, and I guess I'm saying that because I do use their products most often, but there are several other you know great quality knife makers out there. But that's I guess if I were to give someone a day one beginner any kind of advice, that would be it. Like, don't skimp on that first knife. If you're looking
oh,
online,
100%.
Facebook and all the groups, everybody's asking, "Is this a good beginner's knife?" Well, to me, there's no such thing as a beginner's knife. A knife either is capable
Yeah,
of carving or it's not. And if it's not, you're just going to leave yourself frustrated. So, buy quality and save yourself a lot of headache and heartburn.
100%. Definitely. I always recommended for beginners Flex Cut because they're pretty inexpensive. They come extremely sharp out of the box. Um, I've tried a couple of other uh, name brand ones that I just were not too happy with. But um, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mainly have a ton of Flex Cut, but one of my
Okay.
favorites is Helvy. I have a couple of Helvy knives that I managed to get a hold of. And
Yeah,
those things
they're great quality.
they're great. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
but and the only other independent knife maker that I bought from was Ash and Axe.
Mm.
You familiar with him?
Oh, I don't think so. Is that wait a minute? Are they a UK brand?
He's a UK knife maker.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so really beautiful handles and nice quality knives. But yeah, I still want to get some Badger State and OCC tool knives to test out. And yeah, because
Yeah.
I've heard amazing things.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Both are great quality. Absolutely. And on a little bit smaller scale, but a fellow North Carolinian buddy of mine, Alan Goodman, he hand makes really high quality knives as well. So
Oh, cool.
that's another one that I would vouch highly for.
Yeah, I'd have to check his workouts. And then you said you have a set of palm tools also.
Yeah, and most of it's just kind of piecemealed over the years. I've got a few flex cuts, got a couple of drakes, and second to my knife, my most used tool is a 20 to 25 year old Danny Saltfee. I actually bought it back when I was doing the decoy carving thing, and
Hmm.
when I got into caricature carving, I saw all these people recommending the Saltfee, and I was like, wait a minute, I think I might have had one of those, and got to digging through the basement, and found it, and sharpened it up, and it's my favorite uh, gouge by far.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I have a palm chisels. I have a ton of flex cut, and then I have uh, a bunch of the file palm
Oh,
chisels, and those things are amazing. Yeah,
yeah, they're super high quality. I think I only had a
yeah,
couple
they're great.
of theirs, the palm tools, but I don't have, as far as tools go, like I don't have a ton. Um, I've added more over the past few months than I had in the years prior, but you know, I feel like I can create anything that I want to create with a good knife, good soft feed, a 3/8 to a half inch number 9, and maybe one small micro gouge, and I'm pretty good to go.
Yeah, I find myself in the same boat. I only go to, I mean, I use predominantly the knife, and then maybe some kind of U gouge or V gouge, and that's really about it. Two or three gouges, unless there's a really rare case when I need something unique. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I over the years I've bought those file sets. You know, they come in a pack of 5 or 6. You know, I
Oh yeah.
treat myself every couple of years and say, you know what, let me get a pack. My goal is to get all of them, even though I don't need them all. But the completionist in me wants the full set.
You always use one more tool, right?
Yeah. What the pain is, I carve in my garage here. I have a concrete floor, and I've dropped several of my tools on the floor and had to spend hours reshaping and sharpening them up, and that
Oh yeah.
always
Oh
sucks.
yeah. 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 That that's a kick in the teeth when that happens. But I think we've all been there.
Yeah, happens way more than it should for me. What made you get into the whole YouTube scene?
um. So I don't know. I've had a couple people or several people over the past couple of years ask me if I would, after I posted a video or posted a picture of something I just completed, and asked me if I did ever thought about doing YouTube tutorials. I'm like, yeah, I don't have any interest in doing that. And then I guess it was maybe about a year and a half ago. I made well, it was just one of the little 4-inch corner block pirates, and I was sitting around. I made one, and I was sitting at home one day and didn't really have anything else going on. I was like, well, maybe I'll give the YouTube thing a try. See if I can create another one of those. And the video quality was horrendous. Everything's washed out, and it's still, I think, one of my highest viewed videos. Um, and I did a couple of more, and then life got in the way. Got into son's football season, and that went into wrestling season, and I was going through my old job, going through some heartburn there, and I didn't post anything for like 6 to 8 months, and had a couple people reach out and like, hey, are you gonna come back to YouTube? We enjoy seeing what you do there, and like, well, maybe one day, and kept putting off till I, you know, finally got in a good space, good headspace, and could kind of focus on getting it going. And I don't know, I've spent probably 4 or 5 months convinced, like, this is my last video. I'm never doing this again. This is such a pain. and
It is. Yeah.
um, and I had a few people kind of talk me into sticking with it, uh, getting over the hump, and since then the channel's, I would say, took off. I mean, it had taken off. I've got, I think, 2,800 subscribers, something in that ballpark. Like, it's as far as YouTube goes, it's this little minuscule thing way off in the ether,
Yeah.
but but it gets enough attention that I feel like it's worthwhile. keeping up with.
Oh, that's
I
good.
hear positive feedback from enough people that I think it's net benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta say the carving world has a very amazing fan base. I think most majority of the people have been very supportive and positive. There's not a ton of negativity in the carving world. At least I haven't experienced or seen much of it. I'm not sure if
No,
you have doing YouTube
no,
videos, but um,
no. Matter of fact, I don't think I ever had a negative comment on there. I mean, it's all been positive. Matter of fact, that was a tough part for me initially. I wanted honest critique from people, and everybody was just too good natured to really you know come at you guns blazing. I
yeah.
virtually beg people like, hey, be honest with me. Don't hold back. I want to know everything that I did wrong so that I can improve on
So did you end up getting any type of, you
it.
know, feedback that you were looking for?
Yeah, yeah. Eventually, once, and I think you know those people who are serious about it, once they see, and I feel like now that kind of I've gotten over that newbie hump myself. If I see somebody is really serious about it, and is coming at me, seeking honest critique, I'm happy to give it to them, because it made such a difference for me. It's just saying, "Hey, this is off. The eyes are too wide. You need to work on your eye line and whatnot." Little things like that just made a huge difference for me. And that's one thing that I'm happy to give back to people if they ask me now.
Yeah.
And you know, going to carving shows was the big thing for me because I can actually have, like last year at the Charlotte show, actually put my carving in Jim Heiser's hand and say, "All right, tell me
Yeah.
what I did wrong," and we sit there and chat about a particular carving for several minutes, and you know, I take all that information to heart, and go home and try to put it to use the next go around.
Yeah. It's always a little different when you see something done in person as well.
Oh yeah,
You get a better understanding of how something is done. Um, that's something I lack. I have no one around my area that actually does any type of carving. Other
mm,
than the only thing I've come in close contact with is bigger mallet and chisel type carvings or
yeah,
carvers,
yeah,
and they're doing flowers and things like that. But it's very different from character carving or whittling, and um,
yeah.
but it's still very helpful to see that. But I can
Oh,
only imagine what
absolutely.
it's like at some of those you know events and everything.
Yeah, it. I haven't been at the place in my personal life where I could venture off to any of the shows. Lancaster is one that I want
Yeah,
to get to in the next couple of years. The CCA show, as long as it's in September, that's probably out for me for the next 4 years. Just my son's football schedule and stuff. But shows like that I want to eventually get to. I'm very lucky that the Charlotte show is an hour away from me, and that's one that I can go to every year. And um, they have really great carvers come in as judges, and they're all super helpful. Once the judging's complete, like I said, you can actually put the carving in their hand, tell them to pick me apart.
yeah,
I want to be better,
yeah.
and
That's really cool. Yeah, I'd love to one of these days get to one of those shows and you know enter into a contest, carvers contest. That sounds like fun, even if you don't
oh
win.
yeah.
Just something to do.
Yeah,
I
the
see all these guys on Reddit and stuff, and they're always showing contests. And yes. One thing I really
yeah,
like, I don't know who runs it, but there's a Facebook group. Uh, Blanking on the names. It's some kind of like carver challenge page,
Woodcarver's
and
Challenge.
each month, that's simple enough. And each month they have like a specific challenge. Like I think January was a 1x1. I did that. I don't know what February's was, but
Well,
yeah.
I, yeah, that actually, that one I started. Well, actually, we hit the
Oh,
1 year
awesome.
anniversary just the other day. So I started it
Oh,
just over
that's
a year
awesome.
ago. Yeah,
I
it
had no
actually,
idea that it was yours.
yeah, it spawned out of an offhanded comment from on Instagram. I don't even remember what it was related to. I think Josh Arroyo and I were going back and forth, about something, and somebody mentioned something about a challenge, and there was another person that commented and said, what do you mean challenge? Is there like some group where you challenge each other? I was like, no, but there's fixing to be. So,
Yeah,
so we
that's
started that
awesome.
off, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Get to you know stretch your legs on stuff. Get outside your comfort zone and
Yeah,
try
100%.
different things.
I remember seeing a challenge on Reddit for a while, and on I think it was the Whittlers Reddit group, and every month they'd have a monthly challenge, but that seemed to disappear. I don't know who moderates that page and stuff, but I always
Uh,
liked seeing the engagement, and maybe they didn't get enough people to participate. But no,
maybe.
your Facebook page is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and it ebbs and flows. Some month, like for December this year, I think we had 90 entries. Um, this month,
Wow.
we're probably looking at about a dozen. It's one of those
Yeah.
things. There's really nothing at stake, other than just pushing yourself and trying something new. So you just jump in whenever you got the availability to. And like I, I didn't enter this month just because I had other things that took
Yeah.
priority,
Other
and
things pop
so
up.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to keep track of through all the platforms. You got Instagram, Reddit, Facebook. Me
yeah,
personally, I'm
yeah.
never on Facebook, so I don't ever see that page all that much unless I happen to actively seek it out. Um, I'm most active on Instagram and Reddit, but
Okay. Yeah, I've just
yeah,
started tinkering with Reddit recently, and it's little bit different, but it's all kind of close
yeah,
to the old message boards from days gone by. So it's not
oh
too
yeah,
hard for me to figure out.
yeah. I do find that on Reddit, um, you you get it can be a bit harsh, the comments.
Yeah.
You know, and I find
Uh,
that they're usually coming from non-wood working people or wood carving people. They're just people that kind of dabble in it at one
hmm
point, but put it down. So if you go into it knowing that, and take some of those comments with a grain of salt, you'll be just fine. But
Well,
most of the time,
the
it's 95% positive. So
yeah, I'm sure the anonymity of Reddit itself probably lends itself to a little bit more to that. People are posting behind
yeah,
a screen name that if they were
yeah.
posting behind their actual name, maybe wouldn't be quite as.
Although the you do see a lot of the serious named carvers in there. Like Johnny's in it. I see Cody in there every once in a while from Block and
Okay.
Knife. And, Tony, I don't. You familiar with Tony? He does all the pumpkins
Oh yeah, yeah,
out of the
yeah,
UK,
yeah,
the Santas and the pumpkins and stuff. Yeah, I see
yeah.
his work in there every now and again. Yeah, so I see some familiar faces,
Oh,
but
cool. I think I've
Yeah.
mostly been in
So
the wood carving subreddit. Not I hadn't ventured into the whittling one, but
yeah, they're similar yet different.
all right,
But I like both. I posted both of them. No, they're both great resources to have too. You get a lot of cool ideas.
absolutely, yeah.
Do you have any kind of other plans of things that you want to carve, like a bucket list, or you know?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've got I don't know a dozen or more ideas bouncing around in my head. It's just a matter of finding the time to devote to them.
Yeah,
Um, I we're coming up on the Charlotte show in April, and right now I'm fully devoted on getting ready for it. And generally, over the past few years, I would take anywhere from like 9 to 12 carvings for judging, and my plan this year is actually to pare that way down to 4 or 5, and really give those 4 or 5 the time and attention that they deserve. So hopefully it translates into better showings there. Um, and
yeah,
then beyond that, it's just a matter of what I can devote my time to. Once football season comes back around, I'll be somewhat limited. Not nearly as bad now since I'll just be going to games on Saturdays. But um, you know, I have a couple of ideas that I've had for I don't know 2 or 3 years now that I haven't worked up the nerve to try out. That I want to go for some larger scenes, which I don't generally do a lot of, but maybe for next year's show, um, go more into that area, and instead of one-off characters and whatnot, actually do a full scene or two.
yeah. That'd be cool. Like sort of like a relief carving type scene.
No, more of like I mean, it would be caricature, but with a background, and um, it if you're familiar with Neil Sutherland's work, he does a lot of bigger scenes. Like he did one last year for the Charlotte show that was like a bar fight type scene. Had a guy passed out, hanging over the table, and uh,
Oh,
a
that's cool.
cowboy passed out over the table and had a like a can girl standing over him and whatnot. It was really neat. Had the whole bar in the background and whatnot. Um,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
really cool. Yeah, that sounds like a really fun project to work on.
yeah,
It'd take
and
a bit of time, but
yeah, but if I started in on it now, I wouldn't feel like I wouldn't try to complete it for this year's show, but maybe piecemeal it over the next several months and kind of dial it in and get things right. Um, I just waited too late to jump in on that this year, but I got a
yeah,
couple of scenes
that seems
in
very doable though for the next. Yeah, so what's up next for you with YouTube? Are you gonna continue the path you're going? I see you do a lot of multiple part series for carving. Are you gonna keep that style and format going?
um probably I kind of I had to kind of come to an inflection point not too long ago because I found myself like chasing numbers on there, and I had to just to be honest, brutally honest with myself, and decide, hey, I'm a carver who has a YouTube channel. I'm not a YouTube carver. I can't sit down and come up with a new
Yeah,
project every week. It just I'll never get to carve what I want to carve if I do that. So
yeah,
I started these series, you know, that way I could have consistent content, and it's something that I didn't see really any other carvers on YouTube doing is progressing through a more complex idea, and showing how to work that out, and how I go from a sketch on paper to a finished product. So I don't know if I'm feeling a niche there, or if anybody really wants that or not, but I think that
Yeah.
I enjoy doing that style.
Yeah, I kind of like those series. It gives something. It brings me back to the like golden age of woodworking YouTube videos
Mhm.
where they would do that series. You know, building a table, let's say, and be done in multiple stages instead of this quick 30-second format that we've all gotten used to.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, the
so it is kind of nice
TikTokification of
being
everything.
able to watch and yeah, have things explained and slowed down a little bit. Because if you are trying to follow a YouTube tutorial about carving and the video is only 8 minutes long, I mean, they're speeding through the carving. And if you're a beginner, there's no way you're keeping up. You got to pause
No,
and rewind and pause and rewind. Kind of miss
no,
things along the way doing that.
and I had to figure out like where my place was there. And I'm not trying to compete with anybody on YouTube. Guys like Doug and Johnny and whatnot, they have their place,
Yeah,
and they do a great job at it. I feel like there are a lot of what you see in the YouTube tutorial world is geared more toward beginner to intermediate carvers. Um,
yeah.
and I wanted to give those carvers that have done that for a little while the next steps and how to level up and progress from there. So that that's kind of the area I'm trying to fill with my channel.
Very cool. I guess before we wrap up here, is there anything you want to share? Any links or social media or Etsy or anything like that? YouTube.
You can find me on Instagram. It's just Jonathan underscore Creason underscore wood carving. My YouTube's the same thing. It's just Jonathan Creason wood carving, and I'm on Facebook and Reddit, just under my name, Jonathan Creason. Uh, Find me there. I do have links to. I have an Etsy shop. There's links pretty much in all my socials in my profile if you're interested in that. Really, not much going on there right now. I'm not in production mode, so
Sure.
it's kind of a wasteland right now.
Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story, your process, and the insight behind your character carvings. It's always inspiring to hear how artists develop their style, and your ability to capture expression and personality in wood is something truly special. If you're listening and you haven't already, make sure to check out Jonathan's YouTube channel to see his carving process in action and take some time to study his work, especially those incredible character pieces full of expression and detail. You won't be disappointed. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review, following the podcast, and sharing it with a fellow carver or maker. It really helps grow the carving community and keeps conversations like this going. Thank you all for tuning in to the Modern Woodcarver Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and I'll see you in the next episode.